Aliens never expected humanity to hold a grudge for 3 millennia. But then again, they never understood us in the first place. The scourge, they had called it, swept across Earth like fire through dry grass. One moment, humanity was arguing over borders and fuel prices. The next, they were reduced to ash by an alien fleet that decided Earth was in the way of their expansion. No messages, no warnings, just annihilation. Humans were inconvenient. The galaxy moved on. They thought it was over. It wasn't. 3,000 years later, a human fleet blinked into existence on the edge of the Perseus armed, silent, sleek, and bristling with weapons forged from centuries of obsession. The ships were a testament to humanity's singular focus, revenge. The Void Phoenix was at the vanguard, a massive carrier that looked like it had been built to scare planets into submission. Its bridge was alive with controlled chaos, as officers barked coordinates and adjusted targeting arrays. Admiral Kane stood at the center, staring out at the vast void of stars, his hands clasped behind his back, his face a stoic mask hiding years of hatred. The uniform he wore was black with a single red stripe down the arms, symbolic of the blood they intended to spill. Around him, the bridge crew worked with a sense of precision that could only come from generations of training and preparation. "Status," Kane said. "We're holding position at the edge of the system," replied Lieutenant Morov, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of excitement. "Scans indicate the planet is still inhabited. Preliminary readings suggest it's an administrative hub for the Zither Dominion." Kane nodded. The Zither, the architects of Earth's destruction. Their long, insect-like forms and cold efficiency had made them the perfect overlords of the galaxy. They had thought humanity was a footnote in history. But humanity had survived barely. Scattered across the void in ships cobbled together from debris, humanity had become the stuff of myths. Stories of humans, the ones who could adapt, who could endure anything, spread like whispers in the dark. And now those whispers had become a roar. "Send the message," Kane said. Morov hesitated for a fraction of a second before nodding. He tapped a control panel, and a pre-recorded message began broadcasting on every frequency to the Zither Dominion. "We are the descendants of Earth, the world you burned. We have returned. Prepare yourselves." The words were simple, but their impact would be anything but. Kane imagined the panic rippling through the Zither networks. They were arrogant, but not stupid. They would recognize the ships. They would understand the implications. "They'll scramble their fleets," said Commander Rohr, a broad-shouldered man who had been Kane's second-in-command for years. "They won't risk letting us get too close." "Let them come," Kane replied. "It saves us the trouble of hunting them down." The bridge crew chuckled, though the tension in the air remained. No one knew what would happen next. The Zither were powerful, but humanity had spent 3,000 years learning how to kill them. Every system, every weakness, every tactic. They had studied them all. This wasn't just about vengeance. It was about proving that humanity wasn't an accident of evolution. It was a force of nature. "Admiral, we've got movement," Morov said. 3 Zither warships entering the system. Their vectors suggest they're headed straight for us. "Good," Kane said. "Let's give them a warm welcome. Raise shields and bring all weapons online. Roar, take us into formation." The Void Phoenix and its escort ships shifted into a battle formation with the grace of predators stalking their prey. Each vessel had been designed to deliver maximum destruction with minimal warning. Humanity had learned the hard way that the galaxy valued efficiency above all else. As the Zither ships closed in, their sleek, organic shapes seemed to glisten in the starlight. They were smaller than the human vessels, but faster and more agile. That had been their advantage during the Scourge. But things had changed. "Range?" Kane asked. 500,000 kilometers and closing," Morov replied. "They'll be in firing range in 60 seconds. "Hold fire," Kane said. "Let them think we're vulnerable." The Zither ships adjusted their trajectory. likely scanning the human fleet for weaknesses. They wouldn't find any. The engineers who built these ships had made sure of that. Now, Kane said, the human fleet unleashed a torrent of energy that turned the void into a blinding light show. The lead Zither ship disintegrated almost instantly, its shields no match for the concentrated firepower. The other two attempted evasive maneuvers, but the human ships were ready. Precision strikes disabled their engines, leaving them adrift. Cease fire, Kane ordered. No need to waste ammunition. The bridge erupted into cheers. For the first time in 3,000 years, humanity had struck back. The Zither Dominion was no longer the unchallenged overlord of the galaxy. Their fall had begun, and it started with a single strike, one that echoed across star systems. As the remnants of the alien fleet scattered into the void, seeking refuge and trying to regroup, the humans aboard the Void Phoenix and its accompanying fleet knew the road ahead would not be easy. The Zither were still powerful, and their resources vast. But now they had been exposed, their vulnerability laid bare for all to see. Admiral Kane turned to his officers, his voice calm but resolute. Morov, send a message to the Alliance Council. Tell them the Zither are wounded, and if they want their freedom, now is the time to strike. The Alliance Council was a loose coalition of other species that had endured Zither domination for centuries. Many of them had heard whispers of humanity's survival, but none had dared to believe it. Now, those whispers would transform into a rallying cry. Humanity was the proof that even the mightiest empire could be brought low. Morov nodded, his fingers already moving across the console. The transmission began, a beacon of defiance and hope aimed at the allies and potential allies scattered throughout the galaxy. Kane's focus remained fixed on the tactical display. The Void Phoenix had performed beyond expectations, but the real war was just beginning. Around him, his crew operated with a level of coordination that spoke to the generations of preparation that had gone into this moment. Every system was checked, every weapon readied, every defensive measure recalibrated. They were a machine honed by millennia of purpose. Roar approached Kane, his expression somber despite the victory. Admiral, what about the survivors? Kane glanced at him, understanding the unspoken question. Despite their hatred for the Zither, there were bound to be civilians on the planet's surface, non-combatants caught in the crossfire of revenge. He weighed his response carefully. We're not here to commit genocide, Kane said, his voice firm. Send a medical detachment. Prioritize the wounded. We'll show the galaxy that humanity fights for justice, not annihilation. Roar nodded, his respect for Kane deepening. Even in the face of centuries-old hatred, Kane's sense of duty remained unshaken. Far across the galaxy, in the heart of the Zither Dominion, the High Council convened in a state of chaos. Their once unshakable confidence had been shattered by the sudden, brutal return of humanity. The images of the Void Phoenix's strike and the destruction of the administrative hub replayed on holographic displays around the chamber. They were supposed to be extinct, one counselor hissed, their mandibles clicking in frustration. How did this happen? They adapted, another counselor replied, their tone grim. We underestimated them once before, and we're paying the price. The Zither High Commander, a towering figure whose exoskeleton gleamed with ceremonial markings, raised a claw to silence the chamber. Enough. Humanity may have struck a blow, but they are still a fraction of what we command. We will crush them as we did before. One counselor, smaller but sharper of wit, chittered in dissent. And yet, they have already exposed weaknesses in our defenses. If we do not adapt, we risk further emboldening the lesser species. The High Commander's gaze darkened. Then we will adapt. But first, we will remind the galaxy why the Zither are supreme. Plans were laid, fleets mobilized, and spies dispatched. The Zither Dominion, though rattled, would not fall without a fight. Back aboard the Void Phoenix, Kane stood before his crew. The battle had been won, but their mission was far from over. "This is the beginning," Cain said, his voice carrying the weight of every life lost, every struggle endured over the last 3,000 years. "We've shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of, but we can't stop here. The Zither will retaliate. They'll come at us with everything they have. And when they do, we'll be ready." The crew erupted into cheers, their resolve as unyielding as their admiral's. Cain turned back to the viewport, gazing out at the endless stars. Somewhere out there, the Zither were regrouping, plotting their next move. But Cain knew one thing for certain: humanity had returned, and they would not be denied their place among the stars. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy trembled not at the Zither, but at the humans who had risen from the ashes. And this time, they would not fall.